There are moments in life that seem completely ordinary, days so forgettable you expect them to disappear from your memory forever, until they don't. Sometimes the most terrifying people don't look dangerous. They don't wear masks or carry weapons. They smile, they speak politely. They wait for the moment you lower your guard. I was 19 years old, working a minimum wage job at a grocery store. That morning, rain poured from a gray sky without stopping. My uniform was soaked through, and my only job was collecting shopping carts from the parking lot so customers wouldn't have to walk through the storm. It was just another Tuesday. While gathering carts, I noticed an older man struggling to load groceries into the trunk of his car. He looked about the same age as my father. Without giving it a second thought, I hurried over to help him. It was simply the kind thing to do. "Let me get that for you," I said. He thanked me politely, and together we finished loading the last few grocery bags into his trunk. Then something changed. As he closed the trunk, he didn't get into his car. Instead, he stared at me, slowly. His eyes moved from my face down to my shoes and back again, lingering far longer than they should have. It wasn't admiration. It felt like he was studying me, like he was memorizing every detail. "You're new here," he said. It wasn't really a question. "No," I replied. "I've been here for a couple of months." A strange smile spread across his face. "Well, you're very pretty." I forced a polite smile and thanked him. That's what I had always been taught to do. Be polite. Don't make a scene. As I walked back toward the store, I could feel his eyes fixed on my back. I told myself I was overthinking it. Customers said odd things all the time. By lunchtime, I expected to have forgotten the entire encounter. Instead, he came back. He walked straight to my checkout lane carrying only a single chocolate bar. Nothing else. I scanned it without saying much. He leaned across the counter until he was uncomfortably close. "Aren't you going to bag my item?" he asked. I apologized and placed the candy bar into a bag, even though he clearly didn't need one. Then he asked what time I finished work. A knot formed in my stomach. I quietly told him I wasn't comfortable sharing that information. He smiled again. "That's okay," he said. "You've already been here about 5 hours. I'm guessing you finish around 6 or 7. For a second, I couldn't breathe. He hadn't guessed. He had been watching me, timing me. He winked before walking out of the store, leaving me standing behind the register with one horrifying realization. This wasn't an awkward customer anymore. This was a man making plans. My manager believed me the moment I told her what had happened. She didn't brush it off or tell me I was imagining things. Instead, she immediately took me off cart duty and kept me inside the store for the rest of my shift. Before closing, she asked one of my coworkers to walk me to my truck. The rain hadn't stopped. Together, we searched every row of the parking lot looking for the man's car. It wasn't there. For the first time all day, I felt myself relax. Maybe he'd gotten bored. Maybe he'd realized I wasn't interested. Maybe I'd never see him again. I climbed into my truck, locked the doors, and called my mom before pulling out of the parking lot. "I think everything's okay," I told her. I was wrong. The moment I turned onto the main road, headlights appeared behind me. The same car, the same man. He had been waiting. "Mom," I whispered, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers hurt. "I think he's following me." Her voice immediately became calm but urgent. "Don't go home. Keep driving. Make random turns. See if he stays behind you." I did exactly that. Left, right, another right, then another left. I drove through neighborhoods I'd known my entire life, making turn after turn, hoping he'd finally disappear. He never did. For 20 endless minutes, those headlights stayed behind me, not too close, not too far. Always there. It felt like he was enjoying it, like he wanted me to know he wasn't going anywhere. The rain blurred my mirrors, forcing me to wipe away the fog with shaking hands every few seconds. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my mother's voice through the phone. Then I stopped at a red light. I prayed he would stay behind me. Instead, his car pulled up beside mine. He rolled his window down. Rain poured into both vehicles as he leaned toward me, shouting over the storm. What he said made every drop of blood leave my body. He told me I'd make good children for him. He told me I'd make a good slave. Then he calmly described exactly what he planned to do to me if he ever caught me. Every word felt real. Every word sounded rehearsed. This wasn't a fantasy he had just invented. He had imagined this before. maybe for days, maybe for years. The traffic light turned green. My hands shook so violently I could barely steer. I reached for my phone and dialed 911. Before anyone answered, he sped in front of my truck and slammed on his brakes. I barely avoided crashing into him. Then he did it again. My phone flew from my hand, disappearing beneath the driver's seat. I couldn't reach it. I couldn't stop. And I couldn't let him trap me. For one terrifying moment, I believed I wasn't going to survive that night. I can continue with the gas station escape, where she runs into the convenience store and the stalker tries to force his way inside. That is the most suspenseful part of the story. I wasn't thinking anymore. I was surviving. The first building I saw with its lights still on was a small gas station just off the highway. I swerved into the parking lot so hard my tires screamed across the wet pavement. I barely remembered putting the truck in park before throwing the door open. I ran. Rain soaked me instantly, but I didn't care. I burst through the convenience store doors, nearly slipping on the wet floor. "There's a man following me!" I gasped. "He's been chasing me for miles. Please, please help me." The clerk looked at my face for only a second before she realized I wasn't exaggerating. She didn't ask questions. She simply nodded, grabbed my arm, and hurried me behind the counter. She led me through a narrow hallway into a small room at the back of the store and locked the door behind us. Only then did I realize how hard I was shaking. I could barely breathe. The clerk was already calling the police, calmly explaining everything while I sat against the wall, trying not to panic. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Then we heard it. The front door slammed open. Heavy footsteps echoed across the store. Another loud bang. The entrance rattled violently. Someone was pulling on the doors with enough force to make the glass shake. The clerk froze. Neither of us spoke. We looked at each other, both silently wondering the same thing. Had he seen me come inside? The pounding continued. Once, twice, again. Each violent shake echoed through the tiny room. I covered my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. Every second felt like an hour. I imagined him walking through the aisles, searching behind every shelf, refusing to leave until he found me. My mind raced with every possible ending. None of them were good. The police still hadn't arrived. The clerk stayed on the phone with the dispatcher, quietly updating them while never taking her eyes off the locked door. Outside, the rain continued pounding against the roof. Inside, neither of us moved. Then, at last, a faint glow appeared beneath the door. Red, then blue. The flashing lights reflected across the floor like sunrise after the longest night of my life. A voice called from the front of the store. "Police! It's safe now?" Neither of us stood immediately. We waited, just to be sure. When we finally stepped outside, several patrol cars filled the parking lot. Officers separated us to take our statements, while others searched the area for the man who had followed me. He was gone. He had disappeared into the night before they arrived. After giving my statement, I found myself standing beside the clerk who had saved my life. Only then did the shock finally catch up with me. Without saying a word, we hugged each other and cried. We had been complete strangers less than an hour earlier. Now we shared 20 minutes of terror that neither of us would ever forget. I've survived serious accidents in my life. I've stood only a few feet away from dangerous wildlife and walked away unharmed. But nothing has ever compared to the fear I felt that rainy night. For the first time in my life, I truly believed I was about to die. Thankfully, I was wrong. But even now, years later,